Hello, Jesse. A couple weeks ago, I made a birthday present for a mutual friend of ours, and in response, you expressed an interesting wish. You said you'd wish that John Green would make you birthday videos. Now, there's a couple problems with that. First and foremost, I am not John Green, and while it is flattering to be compared to him, because he is an awesome guy that does great things, there is a couple differences. One, I'm way more handsome, and two, obviously a better writer. The second thing, and I think this is also important, these are not videos that I'm making, these are letters home, which you would tell if you look at the name of my new YouTube channel, which you should like, subscribe, and tell all of your friends and family to do the same, because I would appreciate it, because, you know, I have an ego that needs to be stroked. The third thing that I want to mention to you is, you're absolutely right, you deserve a birthday video, because I left the country just before you had your birthday, so I didn't get to celebrate it with you. So that's what I'm going to do for you today. Lex and I have a day trip planned, and we're going to bring you along with us.
Yes, indeed.
We're going to head out to Doune Castle, right up the road over that way, and then we're going to head over to Loch Lomond, and along the way I'm going to talk to you about a bunch of weird words that happen just living here that make us feel like we don't belong here. Now, just so you know, Jesse, I really did want to make this video for you earlier. You can probably hear it in my voice. I actually came down with pneumonia not too long ago. They put me on a bunch of antibiotics and steroids, and I'm feeling much, much better now. The only thing that I have had is I've had this nagging cough that's lasted for a little while. I have no idea why that's happening. Could be anything. Alright, Jesse, we're stepping out of my backyard into the alley that runs next to my house, and that's where the first word difference actually exists. This isn't an alley, not here in Scotland. These are called mews, M-E-W-S. I used to see signs for mews all over the place, and I was wondering, like, what the hell is a mews? Is it like a hotel? I don't know, because it was on the signs, on buildings. I had no idea what was going on. I eventually asked one of our friends, what the hell is a mews? And he said, yeah, it's just a small little residential street that connects two major streets. I was like, what, you mean like an alley? He didn't really appreciate that much. Now, as we walk down my alley, I'm coming up upon the second word that means something completely different here than it does in the United States, and that is weeds. Jesse, these are what they consider weeds here, and they are weeds because they grow wild, but Jesus Christ are they gorgeous. This is all overgrowth. These are things that people don't want. In New Mexico, we would have to work our ass off to try to make this happen, but here, it just happens naturally. Now, Jesse, we're going to continue walking down my mews and enjoying the view of these weeds because it's going to take me up to our next new word. We call them blackberries. Here, though, this is a bramble bush, and the blackberry is called a brambleberry. This is the road to Doune, where Doune Castle actually is, and just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what the landscape is like here. And since I'm driving, Lex is the cameraman right now, camera woman, as the case may be. What do you think, Lex?
I think it's gorgeous.
Jesse, so we arrived at Doune Castle, which is a historic castle that you might have seen in a couple pop culture things. You recognize this behind me. That giant guard tower there is it's the tower that Bran climbs up in Game of Thrones in the beginning and falls down after seeing, you know, his cousins incestually doing terrible things. Anyway, the point is, it's also the home of Castle Loch for Outlander, and this big wall right behind me here, that is where the French taunter from Monty Python and the Holy Grail yelled, "Your mother smells of elderberries," and all that sort of good stuff. Anyway, so we're gonna take a look at this. I bought the audio tour because I'm a giant geek, but hopefully it'll be cool. So Jesse, Doune Castle was originally built in the 1300s by this guy, Robert Stewart. He was also known as the Uncrowned King of Scotland because of some political complications. The actual kings couldn't rule. He effectively ruled the country from Doune Castle, and he's the one that actually commissioned to have this built. It had been destroyed several times, and it's actually still going under restoration right now. And you can see once we get into the courtyard that there's some things that'll show you that. But the other thing I'm talking to you about today is words, and this iron gate, as we would call it, is actually a yet here. Just another one of those weird words that doesn't quite make sense. This is the main courtyard of the castle. You know, with Outlander, the main character Claire, she travels back in time, ends up getting caught in a Jacobite revolution. It's really interesting, you should watch it. But she's called a Sassenach. Now, in Gaelic, that means Outlander. You have the Highlands, you have the Lowlands, and of course you have the Outlands, which is what we've actually become, you know, now that we're living here. And these different words are starting to make us realize just how little we actually know about this place. Also, you had to be seriously buff if you were living in the Middle Ages, because there's so many spiral staircases that lead you everywhere. It's quite annoying. The cool thing is, once you reach the top of these stairs, of which there was about 4,068, you get treated to some awesome views.
Only if you're tall, though.
Unfortunately, I can't really capture the beauty of the place that we're standing. You just need to be here. Come and visit us. Jesse, come soon. Because look at this. Do you see this?
It's a fairy glen.
Exactly. Alright, Jesse, so we're finished up with Doune Castle. We're Doune with that castle. Anyway, and we're driving to Loch Lomond right now. But, you know, the reason that I'm talking about all these weird words and everything, and like I said, we have felt a bit like we're Sassenachs, like we're outsiders, and Lex had an interesting experience with that actually in her class.
So we were supposed to read this book called The Burn, and I kept getting all this warning about how it was going to be incredibly difficult for me to understand, and I wasn't gonna be able to pick up any of it. The first words of this book are the burn, and so you know you'd imagine that they would be about a fire or whatever, but it ends up that the word the burn means river, but that was easy to look up, and now I'm in the know, even though I insisted that I actually did pick up the dialect and what the story was trying to drive at. All of my class members, who are all Scottish, just could not get past the fact that I'm American, and therefore I probably wouldn't be able to know.
Side note, Jesse, we stopped on the way to Loch Lomond to the Phallic Falls, which sounds weird, but it's probably pronounced like Falloch, some Scottish that I can't say. The river on the way up to the falls. Well, Jesse, we found the falls, and we found the source of the smoke. People are camping. Anyway, so yeah, the place was definitely beautiful, and you need to come here. So, you know, after Lex told me that story about how she was looked down upon and maybe people wouldn't really think that she could get something because of the dialect that a book was written in, I kind of started commiserating with her because I've felt the same way. I've felt weird about asking for things because of my Americanness. And I started thinking about that and how it's affected me in all sorts of situations. Like at the grocery store, for example, I feel weird asking, hey, where do you guys keep the rice? Or what aisle is the bread on? Because I feel like maybe perhaps they'll ignore the fact that I'm a human being that is just lost and doesn't know where the rice is, and they'll think that I'm an American and thus an idiot and can't find the rice myself. Then I started thinking about the fact that we do this in America to other people as well. But we do it naturally. Like, so everybody in Scotland that's been doing this to us hasn't really been being vicious. It's the same thing as like if a tourist came down to Albuquerque and was saying, hey, how do I get to Juan Tabo and Low Mass? You know, we'd make fun of them, but we're not doing so with malicious intent. So when I saw that, I came to the realization that we've been doing this to other people as well, and it really hit home how uncomfortable that can be. Oh, by the way, we've reached Loch Lomond. So as you can see, Loch Lomond is absolutely gorgeous. This is just the head of the loch, though. You can see way out in the distance, right in the center of the screen there, it continues on and it gets even bigger. Also, as you can tell, there's lots of little islands all over the loch. Some of them are actually prehistoric, but they're man-made, and people still don't know how exactly they were constructed. Also, we need to move into that house right there. Well, Jesse, we've reached the shores of Loch Lomond in the main port, and it is quite beautiful, as you can see. However, there's an interesting thing happening right now. If you can hear that, it's a giant dance party on a boat that's kind of ruining the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit surreal.
Yeah. And then plus it's also interesting, they have this this aerial course thing that you can see there where you get on and you can walk through all the trees around the shore area, and it goes way deep into there. But then there's this going on at the same time. This is just strange, although it is cool to touch Loch Lomond. Yeah, Lex made a good point. The side of the party boat says that it's a tea room.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It's not tea that they're drinking on that boat.
Well, Long Island iced tea.
There you go. And then my battery died, which is probably a good thing because I'm a shitty cinematographer and this video is getting a little too long anyway. So I'll get to the point quickly. Whether we live in Scotland or Albuquerque, we all live in societies that build up ways of living which are idiosyncratic to the society in which we live, including ways of speaking. Now this process is wonderful because it leads to the massively culturally diverse world in which we live, but it can also be dreadful when it's wielded to create a sense of otherness. Because rarely is otherness in a situation like this looked at fondly. If you're other, that usually means below, stupid, unwanted, unwelcome. Now, Jesse, I don't know if you knew this, but I'm white. And I moved to a country that's massively predominantly populated by white people. And I did so with governmental documentation that allows me to do that. I have the support of family, friends, and I came with a little bit of money. And yet even Lex and I have felt a little bit of a sense of otherness while we've been here. We've been made to feel like we're Sassenachs, like we're outlanders. And that's not even through any large-scale governmental things. I don't know if you realize this, but we are in the middle of a refugee crisis that's happening right down the street there, you know, because Europe's about as big as Santa Fe. And it also just so happens that as of August 5th, the UK changed a lot of its visa and immigration policies. That's some pretty convenient timing, if you ask me. Because of which Lex and I had a much more difficult time settling than we normally would have. And if it was that difficult for two people who are relatively well off with support and friendship, along with money and visas, then I can't imagine how difficult it would be to find a place in the world if I actually needed some help in a situation like that. But anyway, enough about politics. I mean, I'm talking to you. You understand this a little bit more than most people would. I mean, your name's not even Jesse. Jesse, you had to Americanize a part of your identity just to settle in the United States. Anywho, I'm sorry this video has been really, really long. I hope you lock some of the things that I was saying today. And I hope to hear from you soon, brother. And like I said, like, comment, subscribe, all that sort of good stuff, because I want to do this more, and I promise these are going to get better. And yeah, love you, man. Talk to you soon. Nothing like a leisurely walk through the woods to a little Darude sandstorm.